Stand in front of the Winter Palace in St. Petersburg. Now stand in front of the courthouse in Cincinnati. Stand before the Victoria Memorial in Calcutta. The Teatro Colon in Buenos Aires. The state capitol in any American city you choose. You are looking at the same building. Not similar, not influenced by the same tradition, the same. Identical proportion systems, identical roofline grammar, identical tower placements and decorative mathematics, executed at identical scale, with identical technical precision, on different continents, in cities that official history insists had minimal contact with one another. Ask yourself one simple question. If this grammar was invented in Paris and carried around the world by a single generation of architects, why does it appear, fully realized, without apprenticeship, on buildings dating to before that academy existed? Now, step inside. Not into the ceremonial halls, into the working corridors. The administrative passages where no one was trying to impress anyone. In government buildings across Russia, the United States and Western Europe, constructed in the 1700s and early 1800s, interior doorways measured 12 to 15 feet high. Not the public entrances, the service corridors. Back stairwells with risers so tall that ascending them requires an effort inconsistent with normal human proportions. Furniture in working offices. The actual desks and chairs used by clerks and administrators. If those proportions were designed for the people who occupy them now, every craftsman and every architect who built them made the same irrational error. Across thousands of buildings, across dozens of countries, over a period of centuries. That is one possibility. The other possibility is that they were not built for the people who occupy them now. Walk outside and look up. On hundreds of civic buildings constructed before 1900, across the United States, Western Europe, and deep into Siberia, you will find the same rooftop feature. Cylindrical or octagonal towers built directly into the structural body of the building, capped with metal finials, precisely cast spikes rising from organic botanical crowns. Historians describe them as ornamental. But the engineering embedded in these buildings tells a different story. Wall cavities too large for any pipe or wire on record. Shaft systems extending vertically through multiple floors with no documented purpose. Rooftop apertures whose orientation, when mapped against one another, forms patterns too consistent to be coincidence. And something else. The photographs from the night sessions of the 1893 World's Fair. Electric arc lights blazing on every facade, entire city blocks illuminated at midnight, streets full of commerce hours past any practical limit of candlelight. This was supposedly 1893, which brings us to the fairs themselves. The 1893 Columbian Exposition in Chicago, 600 acres of monumental neoclassical construction, completed in under 28 months. The Crystal Palace in London, nearly 1 million square feet of glass and iron, assembled in 8 months, then disassembled and relocated without the loss of a single pane. The Paris Exposition of 1889. The Pan American Exposition in Buffalo. Exhibition after exhibition, appearing on supposedly empty land, displaying the full material grammar of an advanced civilization. The documentation of how these structures were built does not exist at the level of detail that structures this complex require. And many were not demolished. Many became the permanent civic institutions you walk past today. Their origin stories vague by the standards of any building we know was actually constructed from the ground up. Now look at the ground itself. In dozens of cities built before 1870, examine the ground floor carefully. Arched windows with carved stone surrounds. Windows designed to sit above grade, with their lower thirds cut off by the current sidewalk. First floors that function as basements, retaining the decorative plasterwork and ceiling height of a principal floor while sitting below street level. In Edinburgh, beneath the Royal Mile, an entire inhabited street was sealed inside the foundations of a building constructed above it in 1753. The official explanation is that the lower floors were repurposed. This is not an Edinburgh anomaly. Cities buried under meters of sediment. Streets raised by 3, 4, 5 feet. Underground chambers extending far deeper than any storage requirement justifies. Multi-level brick-arched spaces with drainage systems of sophisticated engineering, sealed with connection points for pipes leading to unknown destinations. The engineering is deliberate. The purpose is undocumented. The timing of this burial aligns with near precision to the mid to late 1800s. The same 40-year window in which Tartaria disappears from the maps. From 1570 to approximately 1810, every major European atlas carried the same label across northern Asia. A vast territory documented with the same casual certainty as France or Spain, appearing in encyclopedias, trade maps, military maps drawn by cartographers whose professional survival depended on accuracy because merchants and generals staked their lives on it. Then, between 1810 and 1850, it is gone. Not gradually. Every other empire that has ever ended leaves documentation. Rome's decline spans centuries of testimony. The Mongol fragmentation is charted in detail. The Byzantine collapse fills volumes. This civilization leaves nothing. No record of conquest. No transition documentation. No survivors' accounts. 200 years of consistent cartographic acknowledgement and then surgical erasure, the maps redrawn. And something else is wrong. Something is wrong with the timeline itself. The deeper you examine the dates, construction records, population figures, technological development curves, the more the official chronology requires you to accept things that accelerate at impossible rates. Populations that double and triple in decades with no documented immigration source. Technologies that go from experimental to urban-scale deployment in years without a recorded development path. An entire architectural vocabulary that appears globally, simultaneously, in the chaos of a catastrophic reset, whether geological, engineered, or both. Whoever controls the documentation controls what happened. Official narratives can be written from year one of the new count. Archives can be selectively constructed. Populations can be documented beginning from the moment it becomes convenient to start counting, and not a day before. Between 1854 and 1929, an estimated 250,000 children were transported across the United States by rail. In the placement records, the column for origin frequently reads unknown. The program is documented. The records are real. The question is not whether it happened. The question is where 250,000 children with no documented origin came from in the first place. In the same generation that produced the Great Chicago Fire, destroying every property, there is a pattern that runs beneath all of it. When original glass plates from the late 1800s are compared to their published versions, the differences are systematic. Certain figures, tall, architecturally inconsistent with the space around them, are absent from the prints. The effort to normalize or remove these images appears across collections, across countries, coordinated in a way that random archival loss cannot account for. Every archive is a curated selection. What was not selected, or what was actively removed, defines the shape of what cannot be seen. Tartaria matters not because of what it was, but because of what its erasure demonstrates. If an entire civilization can be removed from cartographic and historical consciousness with such precision, without a collapse, without transition, without a single surviving account, then the mechanism that accomplished that removal is still operational. That is not a comfortable conclusion. That is the conclusion this series is built on.